Well, top of the morning to you. Today is Sunday, July 2nd, day 107 on the Appalachian Trail. Today we're going from Noman campsite to Osgood campsite, going over the Presidential Range over Mount Washington. It's raining today. It started raining this morning. Supposed to rain tomorrow. So all my stuff that I had all dried out is all wet again. Yeah, so it's going to be about an 18, no, like a 14 and 15 mile day. And with some elevation, obviously, as we go over these mountains. So if anything comes up, I'll let you know. Here's our view of the day. It's been raining all day. It was actually cold this morning, but it's warmed up a little. So this is actually the view of the day because there's the Madison Hut. And that means there's coffee and crumpets to be had. And it's only about a quarter of a mile away. Yeehaw! I'm going to provide a little commentary after the fact here. So when we left Norman tent site, it was about, I think, 4 or 5 miles to the Lakes of the Cloud Hut. And I got to the Lakes of the Cloud Hut. And again, it was cold and rainy. And when I got in there, I met up with 3 guys I had seen many times before: Radar, Canadian Dr. Pepper, and Firehoser. And they were sitting around warming up in the Lakes of the Cloud Hut. And then it's kind of interesting. So at the huts, after they fed all of the people that paid to stay, if there's leftover food, they'll put it out for the hikers. So they brought out all kinds of pancakes, bacon. We basically had a smorgasbord of leftover food at the Lakes of the Cloud Hut. Stayed there for probably about an hour. I bought a pair of gloves there because the ones I had were soaking wet. My hands were freezing. So then hiked whatever, the mile and a half it was to the Mount Washington summit. Went into the restaurant there. Stayed there for a couple hours, warming up again. And the interesting thing is that Firehoser and Canadian Dr. Pepper, well, actually it was more Canadian Dr. Pepper, but since he and Firehoser were hiking together, they decided they were getting off the mountain. So they basically were either going to take the Cog Railroad or they were going to take a shuttle on the Mount Washington Auto Road and come down the mountain. Now, that doesn't sound like any big deal, but the next day they're going to have to somehow get back up again to continue along their hike of the Appalachian Trail. But Canadian Dr. Pepper was like very cold and he couldn't get the chill out of himself, so he didn't want to continue on. So Firehoser, he needed a new phone because his phone had died, so he was kind of all willing to go into town anyway. So anyway, Radar and I left, and then we were heading towards the Madison Hut. Radar is a super fast hiker, so I mean, he got to the Madison Hut before I did, and I don't remember if I had coffee or snacks there at the Madison Hut, but then he and I left the Madison Hut, and then we started going down Madison, and that was a real pretty bad situation because it was rainy, it was wet, it was slippery, and actually we got lost. And again, I couldn't keep up with them, and I ended up as we were heading towards I say we, towards the campsite. He was ahead of me, and it was at the point where if like you could barely see the next cairn. Okay, now this is all rock, so you can't see the trail. It's basically you're hiking on rock, and it was so rainy and foggy that like I was afraid that I was going to get lost because I wasn't going to be able to see the next cairn. And the other thing is, it was so wet, like I couldn't use my phone because I mean, you get water all over the phone, and you can't like the touch screen doesn't work. So luckily, I did get to the campsite, and there was Radar, and he'd probably been there about an hour and a half before me, and he goes, "Hey, I knew you'd make it." I didn't say anything to him, but I was like, "Well, I'm glad you knew I was going to make it because I didn't know I was going to make it." But that was one of the few times so far on the trail where I really felt like I could have been in a pretty dangerous situation if I had gotten lost up there, because I wouldn't want to have spent the night above tree line in the presidentials in the rain in that cold. Anyway, little commentary for you.